Welcome back to the Tangent Podcast. It is great to be with you. I'm your host, Austin.
And I'm Jack. Welcome to today's episode.
How you doing, Jack?
Thirsty.
Me too. Me as well. And I'm quite excited today about the beverage at hand because this brand has a great history with me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hold up just a sec. I'm going to turn my light on.
Well, yeah, it's kind of dark in here, too.
All right. Well, do you want to tell our listeners what we're drinking today?
Of course. Sorry. I was trying to turn on my light switch. It's further than I thought it was as well. Of course I do. Today, we are drinking Rainstorm. Clean energy. This one's from the good old boys over at Rain, who we've tested multiple times, and I think usually given great reviews to, you know?
Solid history up until the jalapeno strawberry.
Oh, good. No, that was horrible. I forgot about that.
Other than that, though, like across the board, really solid. They do also have a fun description, so I'm going to read it. It says, harness the power of great tasting clean energy. PhD formulated without artificially sourced caffeine, flavors, or colors, and pasteurized for your safety. Does it have milk or something?
Yeah, what the heck?
Pasteurized for your safety without added preservatives, sodium benzoate, or potassium sorbate. I don't know what any of that means, but sounds promising. Our proprietary energy blend helps boost metabolism, which in combination with exercise and a healthy diet, helps burn fat.
Man.
This product alone does not produce weight loss. Individual results may vary. Rainstorm is an FDA-regulated beverage, not a dietary supplement, masquerading as a beverage. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Huh. Well, zero sugar. What's the sweetener? Probably, erythritol. Okay. So stevia.
What?
It's a stevia leaf. It's supposed to be one of the better. It's not artificial. I guess it's natural, so it's supposed to be better. We'll see. It's what some of the monsters have now in them, too.
So it looks like this guy's got 200 milligrams of caffeine from plant-based sources. Oh, jeez.
Isn't all caffeine plant-based? Like, I don't think there's any animals that have caffeine in them that we're harvesting, right?
Well, artificially, I think is the other option.
Okay.
It looks like this one comes from green tea extract, ginseng, guarana, and guayusa.
Guayusa, huh? That's a new one I haven't heard.
Guayusa? I'm not sure how to pronounce that, honestly.
Guayusa.
Well, sweet. Well, let's give this a go. What flavor are we drinking?
Does that say 45% eggs? Oh, no.
I saw that too. It was like EG something S or
EGCG or EGC.
I read eggs too.
Or something. 45% eggs. Okay.
Well, I don't even think we said we were drinking Valencia orange flavor.
Orange is usually solid. Ooh, it smells really good.
Yes, it does.
Oh, it smells delicious.
Whoa.
Ooh.
That's interesting.
I think it's delicious.
Honestly, that tastes like just like carbonated orange juice.
It does.
That's
Wow.
pretty much exactly what it is.
Wow. I'm giving that like an 8.5. That is really good.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I really,
I'm not
really
a
like
huge
that.
orange. I'm not a really huge orange juice person, but it is good. So I'm going to go with a 7.
I'm an orange juice person, but I have never been an orange energy drink person. But this, I like that a lot. Oh, it has 0% juice.
Ah, nuts. Oh, Valencia is a type of orange. I did not know that.
Did you not know that?
No, I didn't even know there were kinds of oranges. I just thought there were oranges.
Yep, comes from Valencia, Spain. Yeah. Delicious. I highly recommend.
The only problem is it's one of those small Red Bull sized cans instead of the regular big ones.
It was like, and it was only like 20 cents cheaper than a full size.
Yeah, they're regular ones.
Cool.
but it is quite delicious.
Good nonetheless. Well, let's kick things off today with some space news. This is kind of fun. I haven't heard of this up until now, but NASA is developing what they are calling the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, and it was recently delivered to an aerospace company in Colorado, where they're integrating some of the camera systems on it, and it is an infrared space telescope, and it's supposed to be launching in May 2027. And what they're going to be using it for is to study dark energy and dark matter, like study exoplanets and anything that has to do with the infrared light spectrum. So things that we previously really haven't been able to study, they'll be able to hopefully get a lot more information on. So get this, the 18 detectors on there each have 16.8 million tiny pixels.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So the hope with this is that they'll be able to see, one, super far, but then two, they'll also be able to see through things like dust clouds or like asteroid belts pretty well to see different exoplanets or study dark matter.
Is this going to replace the James Webb?
No, it's a different type. I don't think the James Webb does much infrared stuff as far as I know. It's more...
I thought it did.
Maybe it does.
Let's see. James Webb Space Telescope is a space telescope currently conducting infrared astronomy.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know much about the differences, but yeah, this is supposed to be, they're testing it next summer, or they're supposedly testing it this summer. But the deal with this one is I guess it's hyper finicky with temperature. So it has to, like, the arrays only operate at minus 288 degrees Fahrenheit. So they have to develop like crazy cooling systems because any residual heat from any other component on the craft can just like ruin it and make it not see a thing. And so they've developed these cameras to install, but now they have to develop these cooling systems to be able to let it see and not die. So they have to maintain like perfect temperature, which in space is, I feel like, easier because it's cold up there, so you can maintain the cold temperature easier. But like if it fluctuates at all, then they lose picture out of it. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And yeah, like you said, I don't know how different it will be from James Webb, but I think the purpose with this is dark matter and dark energy, which is awesome.
Wow, how are you supposed to observe dark matter when it's literally unobservable by definition?
Infrared. I think infrared.
Okay, sure. I mean, I'm not smart enough to refute any of this. So,
supposedly, it's also it doesn't emit any infrared radiation. So I don't know, but they're going to apparently be able to tell the history of the universe, how fast the universe has expanded, because they can see, like, if you've ever heard the term redshift or blue shift, they can tell how far things are away in space based on the color of light that we detect. Whether it's coming toward us, it'll be a different color because it's traveling faster than if it's going away. We're detecting that light at a slower speed, so it'll be able to kind of see the age of the universe or the history of the expansion of the universe and see really how far space has expanded, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know how different it'll be from the JST or the JWST, I guess, but
oh well.
Yeah, kind of fun.
Hey,
though.
I'm all about more things in space taking pictures.
Yeah,
so.
Like even the James Webb, dude. Like have you ever just looked at some of the pictures that thing has taken?
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
Like the black hole thing, all the nebulas and it's crazy. Like it's so freaking cool.
Well, like one of the first ones they released, like when they were doing testing, was like seriously one of the most like awe-inducing images I've ever seen in my life, and I'm trying to find it right now. There's like the mountains.
There's one that's like the pillars kind of thing. I don't remember what they call it.
It might be that.
but yeah, like I'm looking at a bunch of them now, and it's just you've never seen space like that before. Like I didn't imagine that it looked at all like that. Yeah, the pillars of
How do you
creation.
find all the pictures?
So if you look at pillars of creation,
what's this? Is this one I'm looking at?
It's like a reddish cloud of
with blue in the upper part of it.
Yeah,
that's the one. I remember it released that picture, and I was just like, holy crap, that is like beautiful.
Yeah. And you look at it compared to, like, I'm looking at one right now that's the Hubble versus the James Webb, and they look similar, but like the Hubble has like 5 stars in the background, and the James Webb has like 1,000,000 stars in the background.
Yeah.
You get the blue coming through. Like you see so much more detail on the pillars themselves. It's insane to me, the change. And imagine now, so the James Webb was launched a couple years ago. So they're launching this one in 2027. If they already have the camera arrays built for this one and it's launching in 4 years, imagine like what they're developing right now that will be launched in 10 years. Like it's going to blow this away.
Oh yeah.
But I
well, sweet.
Any new pictures of space are fun, and I hope that it allows us to learn more about dark matter and dark energy.
For sure. Alrighty, well, shall we move on to a spooky story?
We shall.
Alrighty. Let's read one titled... And I lost the title. Nice work. Okay, you get to choose. Would you rather hear ghostly drumming or the weirdness?
I guess the weirdness.
All right, the weirdness it is. All right, this goes. We moved into our new house in 1970 when I was 5. The weirdness started pretty much straight away. The first night we were there, my dad's watch, a typical 1970s stainless steel brick of a thing, which he always put on his bedside table, was found in the morning to be completely dismantled, like someone had taken a lump hammer to it. Even the main spring had been stretched out, all 18 inches from my sleeping dad's head. Not really sure what that means. Over the next 40 years, we had all kinds of weirdness.
40 years?
Oh, yeah, 40 years. That's a long time.
Keep going, because I want to see how long they put up with what kind of hijinks were going on here.
All right. Over the next 40 years, we had all kinds of weirdness. From sudden temperature drops and cold spots, which moved. I regularly had to move my bed around every month or so, which were so extreme I can remember my breath condensing in June. One evening we came home and found the hatch to the attic ajar. It was never opened. And there were muddy paw prints all around it. On the ceiling, we didn't have a dog. We had an antique clock, which apparently hadn't worked since before I was born and was kept as sort of an ornament. The hands of the clock would change time when you weren't looking at it, literally. It would say 6:45, you would look away, then look back, and it would be 3:30. I remember a perfect circle of thunder flies over on the ceiling over my head, which just sort of evaporated, and we were forever hearing people or furniture move around in rooms we knew were empty. I was 5 when we moved back, or when we moved there, and the oldest of 3 kids. Although none of us would ever sleep with the light off, I don't remember being scared. Looking back, I remember us talking about the ghost almost like an irritating, eccentric relative. After we had extensive work done on the house in the early 80s, the ghost settled down a bit and there was less weirdness. The last time it made its presence felt was about 5 years ago. My dad was away and my brother was popping in to check that all was well. As always, he went through the house, turning the lights on before he went into a room, and then off as he left. Eventually, he was back at the front door, about to leave, switched the light off, and it was dark outside. As the hallway went dark, someone gave a breathy gasp right next to his ear. Ew. After he had gotten control of himself, he had to go back and shut the front door. For the record, I am an atheist who regularly has seen ghosts throughout my life. I don't believe in the undead or in restless spirits or new age hoodoo. I have no idea what caused the weirdness in my house. And one last thing, when I was about 20, I'm 46 now for what it's worth, I met a woman completely randomly who had lived in the same house in the mid-60s who told me she remembers it as a warm, friendly place with no weirdness of any sort. And that's it.
I'm saying 40 years of bullcrap. I would have left about 39 and a half years ago.
Yes, seriously. But I guess, I mean, in his defense, or in their defense, none of it was threatening.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't like this continuous. I guess it was continuous, but like, yeah, like
it
you
never
said,
got
like
worse.
like a constant threat or constant like fear for your life, I guess.
Honestly, it sounded like he was just it was just a dude having fun with the family, just like, hey, watch this. Because let's see it.
Just a group of
Sudden
ghost dudes
temperature
being
drops.
ghost dudes.
Yep. Muddy paw prints on the ceiling.
That one's
moving
weird.
hands of the clock. Circle of thunderflies on the ceiling, which just
What
sort of evaporated.
The heck are thunderflies?
I have no idea. Forever hearing people moving furniture in rooms that we knew were empty. A breathy gasp.
That one was weird, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
I
remember being a kid with the breathy gasp. So in my house, I always used to get freaked out because I would hear what I thought was like a gasp. It was the toilet running. Like the toilet would start and just like make that noise of the water running. And for the longest time, I thought it was a person. It was the toilet. So I feel like that one could fairly easily be explained away. Of like, it was just
the front
some noise.
porch? Does that? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of things on the front porch to.
Where do they live? They might have a toilet on their front porch. You never know.
It didn't. It never said.
No, that's freaky though. And yeah, it sounds like over 40 years there were enough instances that the paw prints on the wall, like the ceiling, is weird. Because if you're playing a prank, that's like, I wouldn't think to do that even as a prank.
Yeah,
here, let me get my dog.
Fair. That is just
try
like,
to
what
hold
the
them
heck?
upside down. You know, no dog is going for that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
It just makes me think of Spider Pig from The Simpsons.
It is weird and crazy nonetheless. That's a good one.
I love how this guy at the end goes, you know, yeah, things are definitely haunted around here. Oh, me? I don't believe in any of it. I don't believe in undead or restless spirits or new age hoodoo. It's just like, oh, really? I mean, that would probably change my mind if it went on for 40 years in the same house.
Yeah, I'm too much of a wimp to live in a haunted house for 40 years. Plus, I don't see myself living in any house for 40 years.
Yeah, seriously, I'm like, don't people move after like 20 years in the same house usually, something like that?
I mean, a mortgage is 30 at that point. Upgrade your house, but maybe they loved their house and they're fine with it. But I can't say anything because the longest I've lived in a house that I've purchased is like a year and a half. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad you know, it didn't do anything bad, but yeah, definitely weirdness. Definitely weirdness. Good title.
Shall we get to the topic for the day?
Yeah, we got to.
This one's fun. It's one I've always been interested in, but never really looked into. Like, I hear about it all the time. There's tons of things in pop culture about it, but I never knew why it was like such a thing. And what we are discussing today is the city of Atlantis and its disappearance, and I guess primarily whether it's real or not, which after studying this, my mind might be changed a little bit on whether it was a real thing or not. So, getting back to the old days of ancient Greece, a philosopher named Plato, he was really, I mean, obviously we all know who Plato was, right? Philosopher who wrote a lot of things. A lot of his things are really hard to read. Like, I tried reading through even the Atlantis stuff, and it's a tough read. But we've all heard of him, right? And we've all heard of this city of Atlantis. We've probably all seen the Disney movie. There's tons of movies about, looking about. It is a great movie. That era of Disney movies, like Atlantis, Treasure Planet, like,
it's so good.
It was so good. But we've all heard of Atlantis, right? Like, it's a big thing. There's resorts named after Atlantis and just tons of stuff in pop culture. So I just never really knew why it was a big thing. And so looking into this, so when Plato was alive, he wrote some works called the Timaeus and the Critias. And in both of these works, he mentions this island, supposedly fictional island, named Atlantis. And the name comes from the man Atlas. We've heard of the man Atlas, who, like, he's the guy that holds up the world, right? So the name Atlantis actually comes from Atlas, who is the son of, I believe, Poseidon. And so that's where the name comes from. And so Atlantis existed in the time when Athens also existed, ancient Athens. And the story was that Atlantis was this big antagonist, big naval power that tried to besiege ancient Athens, and that Athens repelled the attack. And they were like the first people that were able to repel the Atlanteans. And so the theory is that Plato wrote about this because he was trying to write about his ideal republic or system of government, and Athens at the time was seen as, you know, the superpower. And so he was basically using this as an example to show that, like, push Athens as like the superior state in the world. And so the story ended with Atlantis falling out of favor with the deities or the gods and being sunken into the Atlantic Ocean. And so that was a very, very, very short story, and we'll get into a little bit more about it. But that's what Atlantis was, right? It's this lost city or this lost island that no one's ever been able to find. No one knows if it's real. And Plato did write a lot of works of fiction, so it's theorized that this is fiction, but we'll get into some of the reasons why people believe that it is a real place or was a real place. So anything...
Yeah, isn't it that Plato regularly spoke in allegories, I believe?
Yeah.
And so people believe that this was one of his allegories, meaning it has it's a story that has a hidden meaning for a different purpose. But I mean, not every story he told was an allegory, so who knows?
Right.
But that is a big thing I've heard on why it may not be a real place. One of the arguments, anyway.
Yeah, he did do primarily allegories, and the thing when a lot of researchers and historians say that when he used allegories, he obviously, if he's making up a story or telling a fictitious work, it's not that specific, right? It's more of a tale with few actual details because he's just kind of making it up, right? Or it's like a story that's been passed down and isn't real. But if he was writing about something that was real, he was very specific and would describe things in a certain specific way and give a lot of detail about them. And so one of the differences with his allegory of Atlantis was that he gave a lot of specifics to the location, the size and description of how the island was laid out and the people and things like that's one of the main reasons that people think that it's more than just an allegory, because he gave all of these specifics about it. So yeah, you're correct. It's hard to determine because he did use so many allegories. And the theory of why he used Atlantis as an allegory was because at the time he was trying to discourage, there's this term called hubris, which is like pride or overconfidence in a society. And so he was using Atlantis as an allegory of the dangers of a hubris nation where, you know, they were so prideful, they thought they ruled the world, they fell at the hands of Athens, and they fell out of favor with the gods, and they were destroyed. So it was basically a warning of like, hey, don't get prideful. We need to...
It's like what's the kid? Icarus?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that right one? Like
flew
don't get too close to the sun. Yeah.
Yep,
I feel
burned
like
his
it's like
wings.
that. It's like, yeah, you can if you get too high and mighty, you're probably gonna mess up on a few governmental choices and have some sort of downfall, whether it be by an outside or inside force.
Yeah. I think this allegory was more of a foreshadowing of what he probably saw coming in society, with Greece being one of the world's superpowers at the time.
Yeah.
Them potentially falling due to their arrogance and pride. And so you're absolutely right. The allegory is the main theory that it's fake, but there is some interesting evidence that we'll go over of why people think that it's real. So the Timaeus and the Critias, again, those are the two works in which Atlantis is mentioned. So I wanted to read a little bit from those about his description of Atlantis and kind of go over what he said about them. So these are really the only primary sources for Atlantis that we've found. Everything else that mentions it after Plato's time is based on these two sources. And so these two written works claim to quote a man whose name was Solon, and he was from Athens as well. He was like a lawmaker. He was a writer, poet, politician type person. And he was trying to basically build up a system of democracy at the time. And he lived in about, I think, 5 to 600 BC. And so at this time, it was theorized that he visited ancient Egypt, had a lot of dealing with the Egyptians, had some dealings with Africa, and kind of was a traveler between the Mediterranean or Greek areas, Roman areas, and then kind of Western Europe and Africa as well. And so the theory is that Solon, who apparently was Plato's very distant grandfather, this story was passed down from Solon about Atlantis and then eventually was told to Plato, and that's where he found this story. And so in 360 BC, that's when Plato was alive. So there's about 200 to 240 years between Plato and Solon. So this story's been passed down, over a couple hundred years. But the Timaeus, it says, so I'm quoting now, it says, "For it is related in our records how once upon a time your state stayed the course of a mighty host, which, starting from a distant point in the Atlantic Ocean, was insolently advancing to attack the whole of Europe and Asia to boot." So he's referencing Atlantis here, saying they're big power right now. They're going to basically conquer the world. And he says, "For the ocean there was at that time navigable, for in front of the mouth, which you Greeks call, as you say, the Pillars of Heracles, there lay an island which was larger than Libya and Asia together. And it was possible for the travelers of that time to cross from it to the other islands, and from the islands to the whole of the continent over against them, which encompasses that veritable ocean. For all that we have here lying within the mouth of which we speak is evidently a haven having a narrow entrance, but that yonder is a real ocean, and the land surrounding it may most rightly be called in the fullest and truest sense a continent. Now, in this island of Atlantis, there existed a confederation of kings of great and marvelous power, which held sway over all the island and over many other islands, and also and parts of the continent." Excuse me. So basically, he's saying Atlantis is this big power. It's a massive island, which at the time he says is larger than Asia and Libya put together. But what's interesting is that he also says that travelers could pass from it to other islands and to the whole of the continent that it was part of. So whether it's really an island on its own or whether it's part of a larger continent is a big question, right? Because he describes how they could pass from Atlantis to this continent and travel kind of freely. But he also says that it lay around the area of the Pillars of Heracles, which is theorized.
I was wondering, what is that?
So it's theorized to be the Strait of Gibraltar, which is an area on the west side of the Mediterranean Sea. It's a tiny, tiny little strait in the ocean. So if you look it up on Google, if you look up Strait of Gibraltar, there's a really famous rock formation there as well. So it's where Spain juts out to the south and Africa juts out to the north. And there's tiny little,
it's right as they are about to kiss.
Yep. And there's a really famous couple big rock formations there. And so the Pillars of Heracles,
really cool.
So the one on the north side in Spain, I don't remember what it's called. I think it's called the Rock of Gibraltar. And then on the south side, there's a couple peaks that are theorized in Africa to be the second pillar of Heracles. So this rock on the north side is one pillar of Heracles. The rock on the south side is the other pillar of Heracles. And so they're saying that this island of Atlantis lay somewhere in that area, the Pillars of Heracles. And then the Atlantic Ocean out to the west bears the same name of Atlas, right? So it was theorized that Poseidon, he was one of the main 12 Hellenic deities of old. He divided the land so that all the deities divided the land so that each of these deities would have their own spot. And Poseidon, he had some twin sons, and he gave the eldest, who was Atlas, he made him the king over the entire island of Atlantis. That's where the name comes from. And then the ocean as well. So the island of Atlantis and then the Atlantic Ocean was all of Atlas's domain, right? And then the rest of Poseidon's piece of the world went to the rest of his kid. He had 5 sets of twins with a lady named Cleito. And so all of his sets of twins got basically pieces of his large kingdom or large inheritance or whatever you want to call it. Sorry, I have a little cough going on. So that's kind of where people theorize that it would have been, is in this area of Spain and Africa, which makes sense because if you think Spain, it kind of borders that Mediterranean Sea, right, to the east, and then you've got Africa there. So if we're thinking back to Solon, who I mentioned earlier, who was one of Plato's distant relatives who apparently passed down the story of Atlantis, he was visiting Egypt and he was visiting Western Europe as well. So this would have been in a prime position for him to be going back and forth between Egypt, Spain, Greece, kind of that central area there where he could have had dealings with all the people that it said he was visiting, right? And Atlantis as well. And so it is kind of a centralized area for all of these touch points that people say Atlantis had with the world. And so that's what the Timaeus says about Atlantis. The Critias, which is Plato's other dialogue, it talks about the same thing, right? There's this island. It was later sunk by an earthquake because they had fallen out of favor with the gods, and that it just became this basically big, huge, giant mud hole, and there was no travel past that to any part of the ocean. It was impassable. No one could get through. And so it was destroyed and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. So they talk about the size of Atlantis a little bit in the Critias. So there's an ancient unit of measurement called a stade or a stadian. And if you say it plural, it's stadia. So a stadian or a stade is a unit of length that consisted of 600 Greek feet, which we don't know exactly what that is today, but it's estimated between about 150 to 200 meters. And so this island was about 3,000 stadia, which if we put that into miles, it's about 345 miles or 555 kilometers. So it's going to be an oblong shape in the south and then extends in one direction about 345 miles. And then across the center. So big, right? That's huge. Like,
that's a respectable island.
Yeah. It's pretty massive. Like he said, it was larger than, he estimated it to be larger than ancient Libya and Asia Minor, which Asia Minor is, it's just a part of Western Asia that is like Turkey, basically all of Turkey. And so, it's not all of Asia, but it's a large country. Sorry,
right.
Just a second. I'm getting a bunch of phone calls here. I'm gonna look who's calling.
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. So
You good?
Yeah. Let me find where I was.
Okay. No, you're good. I mind if I interject here with a interesting point of evidence that I found?
Go right ahead.
Because I saw this one and was intrigued, mainly because we are already talking about just south of Spain, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently a team of English historians believe they have found the location of the city of Atlantis using satellite imagery. The experts say that ancient Spanish ruins may hold the key to solving one of the world's most intriguing mysteries. The researchers believe the city was built by mysterious people known as Atlanteans, with their pictures showing remnants of the harbor wall measuring 5.5 miles long in the southern part of Spain. This wall was mentioned by Plato, who wrote about the wall, saying it was 50 stadia long, making it 5.5 miles on today's measurement scale. Historians believe the area inside the national park, the Donana, not sure, National Park, was once a vast inland sea. And the rest is unimportant. But that is super interesting that they found something which references something that he said that happens to be exactly where he said. I don't know. I mean, maybe he already knew about that wall, but it is kind of interesting seeing that they found something in that exact spot.
Yeah, and there's something else I'll get to in a minute with that exact place too. So,
oh, sorry, did I jump the gun on your stuff?
No, I was getting there. You're totally fine. So I was just going to mention, so one of the descriptions about how the place looks, like if you were to look down on top of Atlantis, so we've kind of seen that it's this oblong shape, right? Like you said, right. About 5 miles, this wall on the southern end. And Plato mentions that it was like a mountain that was low on all the sides on the coast, which is interesting, like a really low mountain or wall, like you said, which was 50 stadia from the coast. And then, so it's this big old island, oblong shape, but then in the middle of the island, they have these concentric circles, concentric meaning that they all share the same center point. And so...
And are you talking about this blue eye of Africa that I found?
So that's another one. Okay. But apparently these ruins in Spain share a similar structure to this. So when Poseidon was gifted this big piece of land, he basically carved the mountain out, which is probably that Gibraltar mountain there. And he enclosed it with 3 circular moats that all increase in width. So these are these 3 concentric circles, or again, they all share the same center point. They get bigger as they go out. So it looks like a target almost, right? And so they vary from 1 to 3 stadia in diameter, and they're separated by rings of land that are between them. And so if you were to look down on Atlantis, it would look like a target, basically. And so then they would build bridges northward from the mountain that would give them a route to go to the rest of the island over these moats. And then they dug a canal that went out to the sea as well, so that ships could come in and out of Atlantis. And so super interesting description, right? 3 moats with these rings of land, and apparently these ruins in this Doñana National Park match that that description. So I'm trying to find the source where I found that, but I found a source today. I can't find it, but I found this source that was showing that they have like LiDAR scans that show a similar concentric circle pattern of these ruins, or of the land, around these ruins, which is very interesting because it matches up directly, one, with the location, like you said, and then two, with the description of how the location was like built and mapped out.
Right.
Another piece of evidence. So this is the most convincing to me for the Spain theory of where it's located, is there's a shipwreck that was found in the year, I believe, around the year 2000. Let me see if I can see exactly when it was found, but it was found off between Sicily and Spain, somewhere between Sicily and Spain. And it was thought to be from Greece, but it was a shipwreck that was found. And on this boat, they found 39 ingots of metal, which an ingot's just like a bar, right? A bar of metal. And,
Right.
They were just like 10 feet under the ocean. And so they were looking at this metal, and the analysis showed that it was an alloy of copper, zinc, lead, iron, and nickel, which, if it was this alloy, to make ingots or bars, to manufacture these bars of this metal, they would have had to have a smelting technique that wasn't around for like at least 1,000 years after the time that Atlantis was supposed to be there. And so one of the claims with Atlantis is that they were this superpower, right? And so they had this crazy technology. They were so much more advanced than the rest of the world. And so did they have the ability to make, these high quality, crazy good materials? Because this was, not only did they need this special technology or smelting ability to make this, but like when they found this, no one had ever seen this same alloy before. Like, they'd never seen this composition of these 5 metals in this way before. And they said it had kind of like a bronze or a copper type appearance to it, which is interesting because Plato, in his record of Atlantis, cites this mythical metal that's called orichalcum. And orichalcum, it's spelled orichalcum. So if you look up orichalcum, it's like a golden colored bronze alloy, and it was used for coins, and things like that. And it was supposed to be more valuable than copper, but Plato was the first to describe this in his record of Atlantis as like their special material that they used. And so it's really interesting that they find this previously unknown or unseen mixture of metals off of the coast of where Atlantis like was theorized to be in a shipwreck. So that's just like a crazy coincidence to me that they found it there, because it matches up fairly well with Plato's record of that.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And like I was kind of skeptical about it being a thing until then, and I was like, oh shoot, like that to me alone was enough evidence. And then paired with the national park in Spain, I was like, that's pretty compelling there to at least say that there was some civilization there that we didn't know about, right? Or that we still don't know about. Because the biggest thing with Atlantis is, as far as we know, there's no material or physical evidence of it. Like, we've never found the island. We've never found any artifacts from it, or written history, or drawings, or anything from what are theorized to be the Atlantean people. So to find a metal that matches up with an account directly from Plato, like, that's huge. That's one of the most compelling pieces of evidence that say this could be real, paired right with the location. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Something else I heard that was interesting. This part I'm not, sure on. Like, maybe just some random dude said this, but I heard that Atlantis itself wasn't just one city; it was like a kingdom. and that there were actually multiple spots. Like, I don't remember how many, but a couple different cities, like, nearby kind of thing. Did you hear anything about that, or is that just crazy talk I read?
Yeah, so I mean, I heard a little bit about that. So apparently there was the kingdom, right? So that was Atlas's domain, right? Like he was given to be the king over this area, and so
You're right.
and then Atlantis, then being this naval power, went out and conquered other areas as well. So yeah, I don't know too much about the history of that myself. I wasn't able to find or research a lot of that, but yeah, I definitely
The reason
heard that.
I think that is because like there's another one of those. There's more than one of those. What are they called? The concentric circle things you were talking about.
So do you want to go into do you want to talk a little bit about the one in Africa that you mentioned then, the eye of the Sahara? Because this one is the other most compelling locational and like geographical evidence that I've seen for it.
Yes, I agree. It's kind of insane, actually. So it's called technically the real name for it is I think it's the Richat structure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's if that's how it's pronounced. Do you know how it's pronounced?
Yeah, it's Richat.
Richat. It's Richat. And this thing is like crazy cool. Like when I first saw it, I thought it was like I thought it was an image of Mars, honestly, for some reason. Kind of gives me that vibe. Or maybe
does.
Like the storm of Saturn, I think. Or
yeah,
Jupiter
like
storm. Which one has that?
The Eye of Jupiter. Is it the Eye of Jupiter?
Yeah, something like that.
Yep, the Eye of Jupiter.
But so this is located. Oh my gosh, I just lost it. There it is. Oh my word, it doesn't want to work all of a sudden.
It looks very like alien to me. Like,
yeah.
Like if you watch the movie Signs, you would think that you'd see something like this out in the field.
So yeah, it's the Richat structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara or the Blue Eye of Africa. It is a prominent geological circular feature in the Sahara Desert in Mauritania near Quadine. Wow, I'm really bad at Wadine. That's not a Q, that's an O. Sahara Desert, let's just go with that, is nearly 50 kilometers across and very visible from space. Initially interpreted as an asteroid impact structure because of its high degree of circularity. But it is now believed that it's a volcanic eruption, I think. Oh, no. Sorry. I thought it was, but apparently this one's saying that one was also debunked because of the lack of dome or igneous or volcanic rock. So it's like Austin was saying earlier, from the top down, it looks like a target. Like there's a big center area, then it kind of like dips down all the way around it like a big moat, and then comes back up, and there's land. But then that one dips back down in a big moat around that, and there's land. It comes back up, and then it goes back down one more time for a huge, giant last one. And again, this thing is 50 kilometers across, and it's kind of insane. Like, I don't know. In your research, did you find something that can create this naturally?
So the only real theory that I was able to find is like weather erosion, water erosion.
What kind of water does that though naturally?
So some of the theories with Atlantis have to do with the Great Flood, right, or the deluge, as it's known. Most cultures around the world have some kind of story of like a great flood, even here in the Americas. Like when I was in Panama, the natives there had a story of a great flood and how they had to go high into the mountain or like one of their descendants went high in the mountain and lived and then started the race over again, right? So most cultures around the world have that history or that like idea that there was a great flood. And so it's possible that it could be, a really deeply eroded structure. If you look at it, you see, so depending on what picture you're looking at, it might be in a different spot.
Right.
I'm looking at one that's pretty zoomed out, but on the top right
Okay.
of the one I'm looking at, it looks like there's like a river going away, or like an eroded riverbed or something going away from the structure. And that would match up with the description that Plato gave, where they had these concentric rings, right? That this is exactly what it looks like, but then they dug a channel out to the ocean so that boats could get in and out.
Yeah, from where I'm looking at, I see that in the bottom left, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of different pictures.
Yeah, but that's the theory, is that it's weather erosion, right? Is the theory of a flood, or thousands of years ago, the Sahara was a very green place. Like, it wasn't a vast desert like it is today. It was super green and one of the most biodiverse places in the entire world. And so if this predates the Sahara becoming a giant desert, then it would make sense that there could have been an abundance of water there that could have eroded. But it's a weird pattern for it to erode that way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how it would have eroded the land that way, unless you've got this lake that keeps growing and shrinking and growing and shrinking. But then again, like, how would it create these three moats?
Why would it skip parts of land or whatever?
Yeah, I have no idea. But the other thing is the size of it matches up with the description of how many stadia across the rings were the 25 miles of some of the rings in Atlantis from Plato's description too. So the size matches the description almost perfectly as well, which is crazy. Like,
it's let's see. According to Plato, the island was circular, divided into concentric circles of water and land. Quote, there were 2 of land and 3 of water. Atlantis, when sunk by the earthquake, became an impossible barrier of mud to voyagers sailing from hence to any part of the ocean. So, I mean, and you look at this, and I definitely could see 2 of land, 3 of water. I could see what that's talking about. The 2 land moats and 3 water moats.
Mm-hmm.
So that's spot on too. Let's see a little bit more on it. Is I lost my spot. I'm sorry. I had to go look at the picture again. He spoke of a mount sheltering by the city by north and an encompassing and great plain of an oblong shape to the south. Atlantis in Greek means does that just really say Atlantis in Greek means Atlantis? Great. The island of Atlas. And as we get near to the geologic eye, where was it? I'm sorry, I found the wrong spot.
You're good.
Right. Okay, the dikes, apparently those are what those are called. The dikes are generally 300 meters long and typically 1 to 4 meters wide. And they consist of massive carbonatites that are mostly devoid of vesicles. No idea what that is. But the rocks have been carbon dating as being cooled 94 to 104 million years ago.
Vesicles, if I'm remembering correctly, in rocks are when igneous rock cools down, or any kind of rock. It's like little holes or channels that are left behind in
meaning
rocks.
It wasn't volcanic in nature. Is that what they're trying to tell us?
Yeah, I'd guess so.
Okay.
It's basically if you
100 million years ago.
So what's interesting to me about the Rishat structure is, have you heard much about the Younger Dryas theory?
I don't think... Wait, what was it called?
The Younger Dryas impact theory?
No, I haven't heard that one.
So the Younger Dryas theory is a theory that an impact, like a comet impact, happened on the Earth that caused sea levels to fluctuate. It wiped out like 50% of the world's like species and biodiversity because it caused like terrible destruction on the land, fires.
Yeah.
Sea levels rose and changes and yeah, and if there were humans, there were supposedly humans at the time, but only about 50% of the human population survived. And so
this isn't the dinosaur one.
No, not the dinosaur one. But what's interesting is that the Younger Dryas impact theory, the timeline lines up pretty well with when Plato says Atlantis was destroyed. So Plato says that Atlantis sunk into the sea, and part of the Younger Dryas impact theory is that it caused the sea levels to fluctuate. And so it could have caused, the Great Flood of the Earth, or it could have caused these natural disasters.
Story, every single civilization has come up with a story for in terms of a flood.
Right.
I thought that was crazy. Like every single civilization has a flood story in their history.
Yeah, so, it really is crazy. And
that makes sense if it's this thing.
It's interesting to me how many, apart from the flood, just how many commonalities there are in historical records like that across the world. Like a lot of native cultures in the Americas have, South America, things like that have very similar, histories. A lot of the structural things that you see, pyramids and things, are similar across the world. Like,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is pyramids was one that was weird to me. It's just like, why did two or more completely different civilizations who've never spoken to each other in their entire lives, don't even know the other ones exist, build the same type of structures to worship?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like that's crazy to me.
Like there's and some of them are unique enough that, well, like you see it in one place and you see it in the other place, but they're so unique, even though they're the same structure, they're so unique just in their structure that it's like, how could they have each come up with the same thing without talking to each other? Like there's no way that both of them could have ever come up with that just like on their own. And I don't know, but
I think that's a basis for a lot of people's aliens exist thing, is that aliens came down and gave, basically instructions to everybody.
Yeah.
And that's how they got the same information. We need to do an episode just called Aliens, and we just talk about all the craziness that like people have for the existence of aliens like that.
I agree. I think we could do a ton of episodes like that, but I don't know if I mentioned this, but I went to Arizona almost a month ago, and we visited this museum called the UFO Experience.
And, no way, dude.
Yeah, it's supposedly like one of the largest collections of like UFO stuff and alien stuff in the country. And so we went there, and it was a little cheesy, but they had a lot of really cool stuff. Like you walk in, and one of the first exhibits was you could go and watch the videos of all of the UFO footage released by the government a couple years ago, like the Tic Tac and the Go Fast. Yeah, like you could watch those, but then they had like these old school, like Cold War era looking telephones that you could pick up, and you would hear communication between like pilots and like air traffic control about like encounters they were having with UFOs that aren't famous, like just random encounters, like of pilots encountering a crazy UFO or like being attacked by something. And then you'd move into the next room, and it would be like abduction encounters. So like each room was a different theme. So like the first one was like military encounters with aliens, then abductions, but one of the rooms was ancient cultures. And so they had all of these like artifacts and tablets, obviously recreations of them, but like there's an artifact they uncovered in like Mesopotamia or something that looked like a spaceship, like that was carved and looked like a spaceship, and all these tablets that have like pictures of what look like aliens and spaceships and crazy technology, rockets, things like that. That it's just uncanny to see how closely they resemble like modern day things. And so it was crazy to me to see all these things from across the world and how they lined up and how consistent they were, but like thousands and thousands of years ago. And so I liked what you said earlier about Atlantis being a kingdom, because I think this common history or common structure and organization across the world like lends itself to something like that, like some common culture or knowledge being spread across the world and everyone kind of using that, and
Right.
a lot of like 17th and 18th century researchers into Atlantis kind of theorized that Atlantis was the culture that really started, like really had all of the knowledge of the world, and that everything good and advanced in technology or like literature, anything advanced came from Atlantis. And so like no culture could develop on its own unless they had like the Atlantean knowledge. So like the Mayans, they were stupid and they couldn't do anything on their own. They had to like learn the Atlantic way to do things. And so it's kind of like a racist theory. Like everyone's stupid except for Western Europeans that like have this Atlantean knowledge and technology, but I thought that was interesting, but it kind of lends itself to that theory of this common knowledge spreading throughout the world and things being consistent across the world. So it did make a little bit of sense, and it does give some kind of theory to that connection between cultures, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, I don't think that's the case. I think humans around the world were really smart and obviously developed their own cultures, but it was interesting to think that maybe there was one advanced culture that kind of kicked it off, or they kind of say that it was like the Garden of Eden where everything started, right, and then spread out from there. But then it was destroyed by this great flood, and whether that was this Younger Dryas impact or just a flood or the gods destroyed it, who knows. But another thing I find interesting that the Younger Dryas impact kind of deals with is a lot of really ancient, like Göbekli Tepe, and there's another one right next to Göbekli Tepe. Let me find out what it's called. Something Tepe. It's Karahan Tepe. So Göbekli Tepe, for those of you who don't know, it's in Turkey, and some guy in the 90s, like a sheep herder or a farmer or something, discovered something weird in the ground and decided to like dig it up, and then he's like, I just discovered this crazy building or like this crazy structure. And so they've started to excavate it, but they only have like 10% of the place excavated, but they estimate that it was built 12,000 years ago. And this would have been around or before the time of the Younger Dryas impact. But like, how could human, like with our idea of like a linear history, like humans started out with rocks and sticks and we've become what we are today with cell phones. With our idea of linear history, like it's almost impossible to think that people 12,000 years ago could build a city that complex and like that well engineered, because some of the engineering and like carving of stones and stuff that they do in those ancient buildings in Göbekli Tepe, like we can't even replicate that today. And so what that tells me is that there probably was a lot of very advanced civilizations. If this Younger Dryas impact theory is true, there probably were a lot of really advanced civilizations that were wiped out, or that we lost a lot of their knowledge, through some cataclysmic event. And it's probably not, the advancement that we think of today with tablets and cell phones, but just different advancement in the knowledge of like physics and natural manipulation of natural laws and things like that. So I think that the linear history that we think of like humans just becoming, coming from being cavemen to what we are now, I don't think it's like that at all anymore. And this Atlantis theory kind of did that for me too, where Atlantis was supposedly this very advanced civilization, wiped out, and now we know nothing about it. But I do think that there were a lot of advanced people back then that we lost tons of knowledge from.
I mean, yeah, with how old the Earth is, there's the chances of there being way more civilizations and people that we thought there were. I think that's not too ridiculous to think.
Yeah, I
don't know who says that civilization can't be reset. I mean, we've seen it before. like
Yeah.
the mighty fall and whatever, and you have to build back up from the ashes. But I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't happen to us soon.
I hope not. But I liked what you were saying though about how this Rishat structure could be like another part of Atlantis, like maybe like
Right.
a second location, you know, and they built it the same way. I didn't think about that myself, that there could possibly be like multiple locations. So I thought that was really interesting, and it does match up with kind of the location in Africa, right? Because they talked about how Solon, the man who originally started this story, passed down to Plato, like he dealt a lot in Africa, but also one of the richest men ever. Like Mauritania, the country where the Eye of Sahara is, had tons of gold and tons of like natural resources like ore and iron. And so back in the day, like they were balling, they were super rich. And so it could have been like a very suitable location for a civilization to thrive, especially when it was this green, you know, very fertile land before it became a desert. Like it's no stretch to me to think that they could have had a very like successful, bustling, powerful civilization there too.
Right. Okay. I'm trying to find the quote I read that made me think that there were multiple different spots or whatever. Oh my gosh, and I can't find it. Why don't we ever write things down? We go, oh yeah, we found this, and then
Yeah.
but I can't find it right now. The amount of times we say that. I feel like we're pretty amateur, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't find it, but I know who said it. His name is Jimmy Corsetti.
Yeah.
He runs the YouTube channel Bright Insight. It has 1.6 million subscribers, so he's not a nobody, and he does basically videos on this kind of stuff, like secrets of the Sphinx and CIA files released show more than we know about the pyramids, and he talked about Atlantis and stuff, and he said something along the lines of it was a kingdom, it was a, you know, like I guess a kingdom with like, I think it said like 8 different cities or something like that, all led individually, but Atlantis itself was the like capital of all of it. And that made me think when I saw that, I was like, maybe that was one of them. I don't know, because it's thought that, you know, the southern part of Spain was where Atlantis was, but that's not where this was. So maybe this was another city that was just a little bit further into Africa. Like you said, I mean, in the mythology, he had to cross from Spain to Africa. So who says it can't be?
Right. Well, it says that they were able to travel from Atlantis to like other islands and continents, right? So who's to say it wasn't in Africa or it wasn't in Spain, and they just traveled back and forth between these islands or continents, and they were just traveling between those locations. You know, you never know. But
Right.
the like the plate tectonics theory as well, that has become mainstream, could show that those locations could have been closer originally, or like could have been more intact with each other, especially that tiny little strait between Spain and Africa. Like that could have been connected back when this was a thing, you know. The earth could have moved since then, or shifted when this Younger Dryas happened in a way that threw things out of whack and kind of caused them to separate or something like that. And they previously could have been closer to each other or related in some way. That, yeah. I just think that how they line up with the description is crazy. Like the size and everything is consistent with the description of it all. So, yeah. I wouldn't say I'm like a full believer in Atlantis now, but I'm much more a believer than I was before that it was actually a place.
Here's the thing. In my mind, even if Atlantis wasn't real, I'm convinced there was an ancient civilization that did get wiped out that we don't know about anymore kind of thing.
Right.
Like, I guarantee that happened. Whether it's Atlantis or something completely different in a completely different spot.
For sure.
Or, you know, something in between, but maybe we're halfway right kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
sorry, go on.
No, that was the end of my thought there.
One of the other theories, and I think this one's more far-fetched, is that the Americas could have been the location for Atlantis. And I feel like there's so much here that we haven't discovered, especially North America. We don't have a lot of large ruins in North America. I don't know if there are. We have caves and stuff. Like Central and South America and Mexico, there's a lot more. But North America, I don't feel like we have a ton of like ruins, you know? Like, where do you go to find ruins here? You don't.
Yeah. Not a ton that I know about anyway. Okay, I found it. Sorry, I found it. Let me say it really quick. The quote. I've been looking for this the whole time. He said it's Atlantis. It was said that Atlantis was a. Oh my gosh, this is not a good transcript. Was said to be a kingdom made up of an empire of 10 kingdoms, and there was a lost city of Atlantis, which was the capital, and made up of concentric circles, 2 of water, 3 of land. So apparently 10 kingdoms that made up Atlantis, I guess.
Interesting.
But anyway, if you want to learn more about that itself, yeah, I'd recommend you just check out what was it, Bright Insight YouTube channel, because he's got a lot of videos on Atlantis, and he's been on Joe Rogan talking about it.
Yeah, he was. That's where I originally heard about the Eye of the Sahara, and he's one of the guys that's really pushing that right now. And so go listen to that podcast too, because he presents some good evidence. The guy that's with him too knows a lot about like ancient cultures and stuff, and they talk about the Younger Dryas and all that good stuff. But I thought the American theory was interesting, but like they say, it's past the Pillars of Heracles, which America would be, you know, past the Atlantic Ocean. But they've found like the LiDAR scans over the Amazon where they've found these massive like buried structures and civilizations. Like previously we thought maybe a couple 100,000 people like lived in some of these ancient, you know, South American, Central American civilizations, but now they're like, there could have been a few million there. And so who knows what they're going to uncover there? Who knows what they're going to keep uncovering in Göbekli Tepe or across the world? Like, I feel like there's just so much that we don't even know is there yet. And as we start to uncover some of that, I think hopefully some of this Atlantis stuff will become a little more clear, and maybe Plato will be proved correct. But I go back to a lot of the specifics again that he says in this story of Atlantis, with one, how it was destroyed by natural disaster, the location, the description of, he goes, if you read the full encounter that he wrote, it's pretty long, but he even talks about the people themselves and like how all of them were physically fit. They were physically fit because they were always fighting and like at war, and they wanted to conquer the world, and how the women and the men were equal. He talks about like their system of working together in government, and just he talks about a lot of things that are so specific that it's like, man, this is a lot to make up, but he never really did that in any of his other allegories either to that extent. Right. So who knows? But I'm more of a believer now for sure. And like you said, in something similar to Atlantis. But I love this kind of stuff. I think it's so cool.
It's great. Lost Civilization stuff is it's fun. I know I've mentioned this before, but there was that that Netflix series on ancient civilizations, one of which was Göbekli Tepe. What was it called?
Was it Ancient Apocalypse?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so Graham Hancock, the guy that did that, he's a really big proponent for the Younger Dryas impact too.
Yeah, and apparently most scientists disagree with him and think he's like a dangerous pseudoscientist.
Which
kind of thing.
to me is stupid. Why would you not listen to evidence? Like even Jimmy Corsetti was saying this on Joe Rogan. He's like, no one's going to accept my like evidence on this. They're not, because they've all written textbooks. They don't want to be proven wrong. Like they all think they're right. They can't look stupid now. Like, so they're just going to play dumb until they find.
The point of science is discover new things and change what we already know because we're updating with new information.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of science.
And that makes me skeptical that we'll ever find out if Atlantis is real or not, because most scientists today won't look at the evidence.
They don't want it to be real. They want to be right that it isn't possible.
Right.
So why even look for something that would prove you wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, go watch the. I need to go watch all the rest. I've seen a couple of the Ancient Apocalypse episodes, and it is great.
Yeah, I think I've only seen about half of it. I need to go. That being said, don't watch it as if it is gospel. I'm not saying that, but keep an open mind.
Yeah, and let's do some episodes soon on Younger Dryas and ancient stuff, because I do want to do one on Göbekli Tepe. That's actually like a bucket list thing for me, is to go to. I want to go to like Machu Picchu.
That'd be sick.
I want to go to the pyramids really, really bad. And then I want to go to Göbekli Tepe. Those are the 3 sites in the world I really want to visit.
I know you can go to the pyramids. You can't climb on them, though. Can you go to Machu Picchu and actually walk around in it? Or is it just
you can go walk around, yeah.
That's
One
awesome.
of the coolest things I've ever seen was when I was in Mexico for my mission. We went to Teotihuacan, which is like huge pyramids. They have the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, and then they have like a whole city there too. So we got to see a lot of their, like I climbed all the way to the top of the Pyramid of the Sun, and it was amazing. It was so just like the way they built it was so cool, and that it's still standing. And I just love that kind of stuff. I want to go to Göbekli Tepe so bad. So if you want to send us on a pod trip, donate to the old do fund there.
Only need about $5,000 to get started.
Let's see, flight to Göbekli Tepe. Let's see what it is. Flight to Turkey. It's no way. $165. There's no way.
No way.
Oh, it's like a 15-day thing though.
Oh my.
So you got like a 15-day layover, I guess. But a direct flight, dude, there's flights for like $700-800 on here. Like,
that's crazy.
Oh my gosh. Let's see. From SLC to Istanbul. Departure, we're going June 1st. And we're coming back on June 7th. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's more. $1,800. Okay. So if you want us to go do an episode live from Göbekli Tepe, just throw a couple grand our way and bring you some good content.
Just a couple grand. Get some of those lapel mics and go crazy.
Well, cool. This was fun. I'm glad we looked into this. And any last thoughts on Atlantis?
No, nothing too much. Something that started out as a fairy tale in my mind as a kid.
Yeah.
But I think since Göbekli Tepe discovery and how that kind of changed how we thought of, humanity in its age, I consider it to be a possibility now. Mm-hmm. So that's fun. See, that's the point of science. I'm opening up my mind and accepting that things can change.
Science. Yep.
Science.
Well, cool. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know what you guys want to hear. If you have any theories on Atlantis, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
We would love to.
And again, thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, and have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day.
Goodbye.